All right, guys, so we're moving into special parallelograms. So with our special parallelograms, we're still going to have the same properties as quadrilaterals, okay? So it says the 5 properties of parallelograms, or I'm sorry, not quadrilaterals. We had done one on, it was quadrilaterals. And so we did the special properties here of parallelograms. So we have the opposite sides are parallel, the opposite sides are congruent, the opposite angles are congruent, and the diagonals bisect each other. And I think, the last one was the consecutive angles are supplementary. Okay, so this is just a little review of what these are. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write them down. So the first one is the opposite sides are parallel. So opposite sides are parallel. So I'm going to use a symbol for parallel. So I'm going to draw a parallelogram here, just so we can see what it looks like. So it's saying that this side is parallel to, remember we put the little arrows, it's parallel to this side, and this side is parallel to this side. Okay, so not just that, but the opposite sides, are, and I'm going to use the symbol for congruent. Okay, so when we have our parallelogram, this side is the same as this side, and this side is the same measure as this side. Okay, the next one is opposite angles are congruent. Okay, so I keep messing that up. So this angle here is the same as this angle, and this angle would be the same as this angle. Okay. The next one is consecutive. Consecutive, which means the ones that are side by side. So some consecutive angles are, and they're not congruent, these ones are supplementary. Supplementary. Okay, so for this one, we don't have a really good symbol to use. So I'm just going to leave it like that. And then the last one is the diagonals. Diagonals bisect each other. Okay, so when I make my picture, just so we can show that they bisect each other, this diagonal right here and then this one. If they bisect each other, that means that little piece is the same as this little piece, and then this little piece is the same as this little piece. Okay. All right, so here it says, besides these properties, rectangles, rhombuses, and squares have additional properties. So the first additional property is that if a parallelogram is a rectangle, then its diagonals are congruent. Okay, so not only do they bisect each other, so not only do they have these 5 rows up here that we learned previously, but then they have an additional one, so they have an extra one, which they're saying that the distance from here to here should be the same as the distance from here to here. Only for rectangles, okay? So here it says ABCD is a rectangle, find each length. Okay, so they do tell us that from E to D is 6.5, so then that means that this whole thing has to be from B to D, 6.5 plus 6.5 is going to give us 13 inches. Okay, next it's asking us from C to D. So from C to D should be the same as from B to A. So then it should also be 5 inches. Okay, the next one is saying from A to C. Here's from A to C. Well, if the diagonals are the same, remember that's the rule that we just learned, then from A to C should also be 13. And then last from A to E. So just half of this right here should be 6.5, just like the other side. 6.5 inches. And you know what? I forgot to put inches here. All right, the next one says, find the measure of the numbered angles in the following rectangle. Okay, so here they tell us this is 18. We do know since this is a rectangle, this is 90 degrees. So if that's 18, this angle right here, which is angle 3, should also be 18. Okay, and then to find this other side, which is this side right here, since this one's 18, and we know that together they make a 90-degree angle, then I'm going to do 90 minus 18. And that is going to give me, let me put that in my calculator really quick. And that gives me 72. Okay, so that means if this angle right here is 72, so then that means if this is 72, and since this side is the same as this side, then that means angle 1 should also be 72. Whoops. 72. Okay, so now we just need angle 2 and angle 4. Well, this, if you notice, is a triangle. Okay, so we know that the three angles in a triangle should add up to 180, so we're going to do 180 minus angle 1 was 72, and the one opposite was also 72. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in my calculator, and that gives me 36. So that means angle 2 is 36. Okay, and then to find angle 4, if you notice, angle 4 makes a straight line with angle 2. So remember, when it's a straight angle, they should add up to 180. So I'm going to do 180 minus 36. And let's see, 180 minus 36 gives me 144. So angle 4 is 144 degrees. Okay, the next one says a rectangular gate has diagonal braces. Find each length. So real quick, I'm just going to go ahead and go through these. So they tell us that this is 48, so that means from here to here is also 48 inches. Okay, and they tell us from here to here, from J to K is 39 inches, so that means from H to G is also 39 inches. So 39 inches. Okay, so then from there, what else? To find the diagonal. So we don't know what the diagonal is. They don't give us any hints, but they do tell us this is a rectangular gate. And we know that since it's a rectangle, this is a right angle. So I'm going to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared to find the diagonal. So 48 squared plus 39 squared equals c squared. So I'm going to put that in my calculator. So 48 squared plus 39 squared, that gives me 3,825 equals c squared. So to find our diagonal, we're going to go ahead and take the square root. And that gives me 61.8. So from G all the way to L is 61.8. So then that means that the little section, if I were to divide it by 2, because remember the diagonals bisect each other, just from here to here would be 30.9. Okay. So let's go ahead and see. It asks us first from H to D. Well, from H to G we said was 39. Next is from G to J. So that whole thing we had already said it was 61.8. Okay, from H to K. So H to K would be this other diagonal. Remember, the rules are that the diagonals are the same, so that would also be 61.8. The next one's asking us from G to K. So we're identified from G to K is 48. You know what? All of these are inches. Next, from J to L. So J to L is just this half piece, which should be 30.9. And then from L to K, which is this section here, should also be 30.9. Right, so now the properties of rhombuses. So for a rhombus, if a parallelogram is a rhombus, then its diagonals are perpendicular. So here are two diagonals. And so since our diagonals here are perpendicular, that means that they make a right angle. So this angle in here should be 90 degrees, okay? Oh. Okay, so that's the first one. The next one is if a parallelogram is a rhombus, then each diagonal bisects the pair of opposite angles. So bisect means to cut into two equal parts or to cut in half. So that means that this diagonal is going to cut angle S and angle Q in half. And then here, this diagonal here is going to cut R and T in half. Okay. So here it says find the measure of each of the numbered angles in the following. So they said this angle 68. So that means that this angle, because this is a rhombus, this angle should be the same as this angle. And it should be the same as this one and this one. So angle 3 and angle 2 should be 60 degrees. Okay. Now, the other rule for for rhombuses is that the two diagonals are perpendicular, meaning they make a right angle. So that means that angle 4 should be 90 degrees. Okay, so all of these should be 90 degrees. This one's 90, this is 90, and this is 90. So they want us to find angle 1. If you notice, this is a triangle. Okay, we know that this one is 90 degrees, so I'm going to do 180 minus 90. We said angle 2 is 68, so I'm also going to subtract the 68, and that'll give me angle 1. So when I put that in my calculator, that's going to give me 22. So that means the measure of angle 1 is 22 degrees. All right, so here it says RSTB is a rhombus, find BT. So because it is a rhombus, that means that all the sides are the same. So S to T should be the same from S to R, should be the same from R to B, and from T to B. Okay, so then that means that I can set both of these equal to each other. 9x minus 11 equals, because they should all be equal sides, equal measures, and I'm going to solve for x. So first I'm going to move over this 4x to the other side by subtracting. And we get 5x minus 11 equals 7. We add the 11. And then this is going to cancel. And we get 5x equals 18. We divide by 5. So 18 divided by 5 is going to give me 3.6. So x equals 3.6. Now they're not asking us for x. They're asking us from b to t. So here's from b to t, which it should be the same all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it into either one. Doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and plug it into the 9. So 9 times 3.6 minus 1. That gives me 31.4. And then this one, they didn't give us units. Well, it's not minus 1. It's minus 11. Whoops. Minus 11. It should be 21. Whoops. Okay. So the next one here, it says KLM is a rhombus. Whoops. KLMN is a rhombus. Find each of the following. So let's go ahead and take a look. Now starting off here, I can see right away that this angle in here should be a 90-degree angle. So that means that 9y should equal 90. Okay. So with that in mind, if I solve for y, I'm going to go ahead and divide by 9, and we get y equals 10. So now that we know that y equals 10, I'm going to go ahead and take this 10 and plug it in here for y. So it'll be 2 times 10 is 20 plus 5 gives us 25. So this is 25, this is 25, this is 25, and this angle here is 25. Okay. And then we also know that the three angles in a triangle should add up to 180. So this one plus this one plus this one. So to find this angle here that's at K, I'm going to go ahead and do 180 minus the 90 minus the 25. And that is going to give me 65. Okay, so that means that this angle here is 65. And so it's this one and this one. I'm just going to put the little arc marks so I don't have to write 65 so many times. Okay. Now, also because this is a rhombus, they do tell us that this side here is 3x plus 4 and this side here is x plus 20. Well, because it's a rhombus, all the sides should be equal. So 3x plus 4 should equal x plus 20. We're going to go ahead and solve for x. So I'm going to subtract the x first. This cancels. We get 2x plus 4 equals 20. We subtract the 4, and we get 2x equals 16. We divide both sides by 2, and we get x equals 8. Now we're not done quite yet. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. So if I plug it into either one, it should give me the same answer. So if I plug it in here, 8 plus 20 gives me 28. If I plug it in here, 3 times 8 is 24, plus 4 is also 28. So now we can answer these questions because we found everything. So from for x, we said x is equal to 8. We found it right here. For y, we said y is equal to 10. We found it right here. From k to l, we said all the sides are the same, so it has to be 28. The next one's asking us for K and L. So they're asking us for this number here, which we said K and L, that's going to be 25 degrees. The next one's asking for KLM. It's asking for this whole thing. So both of the 25. So 25 plus 25 gives me 50. And then KMN. So KMN is going to give us 65. Okay, the next one, it says in rhombus PI and K, the diagonals measure 14 centimeters and 18 centimeters. What is the length of a side? So let's go ahead and draw a picture of a rhombus. So here's my rhombus. So PI and K. It says the diagonals. So I'm going to draw the diagonals. Here are my diagonals. One of them's 14 centimeters. Well, since they cut each other in half, that means it's 7 and 7. And then the other one's 18. So this would be 9 and 9. So I know it's not the best picture, but there you go. Now remember the diagonals bisect each other, so make a right angle. So then to find the length of the side of the triangle right here, if you notice, this can make a triangle, specifically a right triangle, so we can use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my calculator 9 squared plus 7 squared, and then that gives me 130. And so to find c, I'm going to go ahead and take the square root. That gives me 11.4, which is my c. So then that means that my missing side is 11.4 centimeters. Okay, the last, properties of squares. So properties of squares is going to have all the properties that we just learned. So not only is it going to have the first 5 properties that we learned here, that the opposite sides are parallel, the opposite sides are congruent, the opposite angles are congruent, the consecutive angles are supplementary, and the diagonals bisect each other. So those 5. But it's also going to have the properties of rectangles where the diagonals are congruent, which means they're equal in measure. And it's also going to have these properties that the perpendicular are the diagonals are perpendicular. Sorry, I said it backwards. And the diagonals bisect each other. So it's going to have a total of 8 properties, okay? So here, because a square is both a rectangle and a rhombus, that's why it has all those properties. So here they give us the diagram of a square on the coordinate plane. It says show that the diagonals of the square are congruent, which is the properties of rectangles. So to find that the diagonals are congruent, we're going to find the distance from here to here by using the distance formula. So we're going to go ahead and use these numbers here. I'm going to use the distance from A to C is equal to the square root. Okay, this is a distance formula. Okay, guys. Sorry, it's not writing. Let me move up a little bit. Okay. Oh, it's still not working. So we're going to subtract the x values and square it, plus subtract the y values and square it. So my x values are going to be -1 minus 2, and my y values are going to be 0 minus 7. Okay, I go ahead and put all of that in my calculator, and that is going to give me it gives me 7.6. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing from B to D. Okay, so for showing that the diagonals are congruent, then it should give you the exact same answer. So from B to D is equal to the square root. Oh, it's not writing again. There. We subtract our x value squared, subtract our y value squared. So -3 minus 4. And then we have 5 minus 2. And then we go ahead and take the square root of that, and that also gives me 7.6. So then because they're both congruent, that's how we show that they're the same. The next one says shows the diagonals of the square are perpendicular. So if they are perpendicular, then that means they intersect to make a right angle. So that means right here we would have a right angle. So the way that we tell is by looking at the slope. So we're going to go ahead and count the slope from A to C. So the rise over the run. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the run is 1, 2, 3. So 7 over 3 from A to C. Our slope is 7 over 3. And then the slope from B to D, in order for them to be perpendicular, it needs to be the opposite reciprocal. So the opposite would be the opposite sign, so it needs to be negative. And then instead of being 7/3, we would flip it. It would be 3/7. But let's go ahead and check it on the graph. So here from B to D, it goes down 3, 1, 2, 3. So far we're good. And then to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So they are perpendicular because the slopes are opposite reciprocals. The last is to show that the diagonals of the squares bisect each other. So if they bisect each other, then that means they cut each other in half into 2 equal parts. So I'm going to go ahead and find the distance from B to D. The distance, the midpoint of BD, and then we'll have to find the midpoint of AC. Okay, so I'm just going to copy down the points real quick so that I can make this bigger. It's also so much easier for me to write. So that's the point for A and the point for C. And the point for B and D, -3, 5, A1 to 2. Okay, so when finding the midpoint here, the way we find the midpoint is we add the x values, so -3 plus 4, and we divide by 2. Here we add the y values, 5 plus 2, and we divide by 2. So this is going to give me -3 plus 4, that would give me 1/2. And then 5 plus 2 is 7, divided by 3, we'll leave it as 7/2. Okay, let's go ahead and find it from A to C. So here we're going to add the x values. So -1 plus 2, and we divide it by 2. Here we add the y value, 0 plus 7, and divide it by 2. So this one ends up giving me 1/2, and then this one gives me 7/2. So because they have the same midpoint, that means that they cut each other in half. And that's it for me, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.